Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into a story that has touched millions of hearts, a tale about dreams, destiny, and the incredible journey of following your heart. It all begins with a young shepherd in the hills of Andalusia. I was a shepherd once. The rolling hills were my home, the sky was my roof, and my sheep were my only companions. I was young, restless, and filled with dreams that felt far too big for the quiet fields I roamed. At night, under a blanket of stars, my thoughts would drift away from my flock and toward a distant world. A world of unknown things, just waiting to be discovered. Then, one night, I had a dream. In it, a child took my hand and led me to the foot of the magnificent Egyptian pyramids. There, the child whispered, "You will find a hidden treasure." I woke up with my heart pounding, not sure if it was just my imagination. But the dream returned the very next night, exactly the same, stopping at the exact same moment. That's when I knew I had to take it seriously. I traveled to the nearest town to find a gypsy woman known for interpreting dreams. Her tent was filled with the smell of smoke and strange herbs. She listened to my story with a knowing smile. "The dream speaks the truth," she declared. "You must go to the pyramids of Egypt. There, you will find your treasure." I laughed at the idea, but she was insistent, asking only for 1/10 of whatever I found. Her certainty planted a seed of possibility in my mind. Not long after, I met a mysterious old man who looked like a king. He introduced himself as Melchizedek, the king of Salem, and he spoke as if he could see right into my soul. "When you truly want something," he told me, his voice full of wisdom, "all the universe conspires in helping you to achieve it." He explained that I was on the path to my personal legend, the unique purpose every person is born to fulfill. His words felt like sunlight warming my spirit. Before he left, he gave me 2 stones, Urim and Thummim, to help guide me when I couldn't read the omens. With a heavy heart, I sold my flock of sheep and used the money to start my journey to Egypt. My first stop was Tangier, a bustling port city that smelled of spices and sea salt. It was a world away from my quiet hills. The sound of unfamiliar languages swirled around me, and I felt a mix of exhilaration and terror. Within hours, my excitement turned to despair. I was robbed of everything: my money, my hopes, and even my belief that I had made the right choice. Alone, in a foreign land, I sat in the marketplace and cried, feeling like a fool for chasing a dream. But then, I remembered the old king's words: "When you want something, all the universe conspires to help you achieve it." So, I decided not to give up and return home defeated. Instead, I found a job in a crystal shop owned by a kind but weary old man. I spent my days cleaning dusty glasses and arranging them on the shelves, slowly learning the language of the merchants and the customers. Day by day, I rebuilt my confidence. The shopkeeper had once dreamed of making a pilgrimage, but had long given up. I could see the quiet sorrow in his eyes, the regret of someone who had abandoned his own legend. His story was a powerful reminder that I could not let myself do the same. Months turned into a year. I had saved enough money to start my journey again. I could have stayed in Tangier, maybe opened my own shop and lived a comfortable life, but my heart was still set on the pyramids. So, I left the city and joined a caravan heading into the vast Sahara Desert. The desert stretched on forever, an ocean of golden sand that seemed to swallow time itself. The days were scorching hot, the nights were freezing cold, but in that immense emptiness I found a sense of peace I had never known. On this journey I met an Englishman who was fascinated with alchemy, the ancient science of turning metal into gold. He spoke passionately about a legendary alchemist who lived somewhere in the desert, a man who had discovered the masterwork, the secret of transformation. The Englishman spent his days buried in thick ancient books filled with strange symbols. I, on the other hand, preferred to watch the wind, the stars, and the omens around us. But I listened to him, sensing that his search and mine were not so different after all. The caravan moved slowly, and the threat of danger was always near. Tribal wars had broken out across the desert, forcing us to travel mostly at night. During those long, silent hours under the stars, I felt the desert teaching me its own language of patience, faith, and the soul of the world. It was a profound and humbling experience. At last, we reached a sprawling oasis, a beautiful sanctuary of palm trees and fresh water, a place of peace in the middle of all the chaos. It was there that my life changed forever. I met a woman named Fatima. She was unlike anyone I had ever known, as gentle as the desert wind, yet as strong as its storms. From the very first moment I saw her, I felt like my heart had finally found its home. We didn't need many words. Our souls seemed to understand each other perfectly. I found myself wanting to stay in the oasis, to build a life with her among the date palms and forget about my treasure. But one night, a powerful horseman dressed in black rode into our camp. It was the Alchemist himself. He knew about my dream without me even saying a word. "You must continue toward your treasure," he said sternly. "Love never keeps a man from his destiny. If it does, it is not true love." His words struck me deeply. I told Fatima I had to leave, but promised I would return for her. With a trusting smile, she said she would wait. So, I rode out into the heart of the desert with the Alchemist. He became my teacher, but his lessons were not about words. They were about understanding the world around me. "Listen to your heart," he would tell me, "for it knows all things." I began to learn that when you are truly following your personal legend, everything in the universe becomes a part of your journey. Even fear becomes a teacher, and failure becomes a new path forward. We traveled for many days, with only the whisper of the wind breaking the silence of the sands. One evening, the Alchemist decided to test me in a way I could never have imagined. He told me I had to become the wind, to merge my soul with the soul of the world. At first, I thought it was impossible. How could a man become the wind? But as I stood on a high cliff, feeling the desert breathe all around me, something inside me shifted. I realized that everything, the wind, the sand, the sun, and even myself, was connected. We were all one. I closed my eyes, let go of all my doubt, and spoke to the desert, then to the wind, and finally to the sun. And just like that, the wind obeyed. When I opened my eyes, the tribesmen who had captured us and doubted me were now bowing in awe. The Alchemist simply smiled, as if he had known what I was capable of all along. Soon after that, he left me at a small monastery, giving me a piece of gold and one final piece of advice. "Remember that what you have learned belongs to you forever. Go to your treasure and don't stop until you find it. The journey felt endless. I had walked alone through burning days and freezing nights, until finally the pyramids rose from the horizon, their peaks touching the golden sky. I collapsed onto the sand, my knees giving way, and I wept. All the fear, the love, the loss, it had all led me to this single moment. My hands, trembling with a mix of exhaustion and excitement, began to dig. I was so close. The treasure, my personal legend, was just beneath the surface. But the desert has its own plans. As darkness fell, I was ambushed. They were refugees from the tribal wars, desperate and cruel. They beat me, stole the small piece of gold the alchemist had given me, and when I told them why I was digging, they laughed. A cold, hollow sound in the vast silence. Treasure. One of them spat. You're a fool. I had a dream just like yours, twice. He told me to go to Spain, to find a ruined church where shepherds and their sheep sleep. He said my treasure was buried under a sycamore tree growing inside. He laughed again, shaking his head at my stupidity. But I'm not foolish enough to cross a desert because of a dream. They left me there, bruised and half-buried, my spirit as broken as my body. And in that moment of absolute despair, clarity washed over me like a cool wave. The universe had finally spoken to me in a language I could understand. The dream hadn't sent me to the pyramids to find a treasure of gold, but to find myself. The entire journey, every step, every person I met, was the real treasure. My riches weren't here in Egypt. They were right back where I started. I made my way back across the desert, back over the sea, to Spain. I was weaker. My pockets were empty, but my spirit was richer than any king's. I returned to the abandoned church, the same one where I used to sleep with my flock. The sycamore tree was still there, its branches reaching towards the broken roof, just as I remembered. It felt like a lifetime ago. With newfound strength, I began to dig at its roots. The earth was soft, welcoming, as if it had been waiting for my return. And then my shovel struck something hard. A chest. It was filled with Spanish gold coins, precious jewels, and artifacts from a forgotten time. I laughed, a real deep laugh that came from my soul, tears streaming down my face. It wasn't the gold that made me joyful. It was the beautiful, perfect circle that life had drawn. My journey had taken me all the way to Egypt, only to lead me back home. I thought of everyone who had guided me, the old gypsy woman, the wise King Melchizedek, the Englishman with his books, the alchemist who taught me the language of the world, and Fatima, my Fatima, waiting for me at the oasis. I finally understood. The real treasure was never the gold. It was the transformation of a simple shepherd boy into a man who understood his place in the world. It was the journey itself. As the sun painted the Andalusian hills with light, I whispered to the wind, letting it carry my promise across the world. I'm coming, Fatima. The wind, my old friend, swirled around me, carrying the familiar scent of the desert, and I could almost hear her voice in its whisper, telling me to hurry. And so I prepared to set out on another journey, not as the boy who chased a dream of riches, but as the man who had learned to listen to his heart, the man who could read the omens and speak with the soul of the world, because I now know the greatest truth of all. The treasure of life isn't what we find at the end of the road. It's who we become while we're on it. Thank you so much for joining me on this story. If it resonated with you, I'd be so grateful if you'd like this video and subscribe to the channel for more journeys of the heart. Until next time, follow your own legend.